Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The galaxy was a tapestry of vibrant colors glimmering in the void of space. Countless stars blinked like distant eyes, their light filtering through the blackness, illuminating the myriad planets that sprawled across the cosmos. This was a universe where hope and despair danced a delicate waltz, where the powerful reigned supreme, and the oppressed fought to make their voices heard. Among them, Camilla stood as a symbol of rebellion, a stunning amalgamation of beauty and defiance. With her iridescent skin that shimmered under the glow of a star-studded sky and her fierce violet eyes, she captivated any onlooker. But beneath her alluring exterior lay an intricately woven tale of courage. She was the one who dared to unveil the corruption that festered within the Galactic Council, the ones who governed not by justice but by fear. Running through the twisted alleyways of Lentra, a bustling trade planet, Camilla clenched a data chip tightly in her hand, her heart racing. She could hear the distant boots of the Council's enforcers echoing behind her, their shouts rabid with determination. They were determined to capture her, to silence her before she could spill their secrets to the galaxy. As she turned sharply into a dimly lit corridor, her mind raced. She had gathered intelligence that could topple the very foundation of the corrupt Council, a scandal that could free many from their tyrannical grasp. But in the digital age, information was both weapon and curse, and there was a price on her head. "Don't let her get away," came the bark of a gruff overseer, his voice punctuated by the thud of heavy steps. She could almost feel the vibrations of the ground shuddering beneath the weight of their pursuit. Instinct screamed at her to keep moving, that to pause would mean capture or worse. She darted around a corner, the glimmer of lights behind her fading with each step she took. The air was thick, each breath a reminder of the danger that lurked just behind her. Then, in a singular moment of desperation, she stumbled into an open market, filled with vendors shouting in strange tongues, each hawking their wares. Her heart pounded as she weaved between them, attempting to blend in, to lose her pursuers in the chaos. But Camilla was not just a face in the crowd, she was driven by the fierce desire for justice. As she ducked into the shadows, she felt a surge of adrenaline course through her veins. This was her fight, she had to stand against the overwhelming tide of oppression. Just when she thought she had evaded capture, her panicked breath caught in her throat. A sharp voice cut through the noise of the market. "There she is." Her heart sank. The bounty hunters were closing in. Clenching the data chip needle-like in her palm, she scanned her surroundings for an escape route. If she didn't act now, everything she had sacrificed would be lost. And then, against the thrum of distress, a wild idea took shape. Across the market stood a rugged human with striking features, leaning against a metal beam as if waiting for the chaos to unfold. She knew the look, a bounty hunter, but not just any hunter. He was Harry, a former military operative, renowned for his skill and notorious for his independence. This was her only chance. "Help!" she cried, rushing towards him, desperation fueling her legs. The eyes of the crowd flickered between her and the human, uncertainty glistening in their gaze. But Harry only narrowed his eyes, assessing the situation with cool detachment. "What's in it for me?" he asked, a smirk playing on his lips despite the grave threat trailing ominously behind her. "Protection," she gasped, risking a glance over her shoulder. They were almost upon her. "I have information that could bring down the Council. They want me dead." Intrigued but wary, Harry hesitated, the wheels of his calculating mind spinning furiously. He weighed her words carefully, searching for sincerity in her pleading gaze. The tension in the air was palpable, a fateful moment hanging by a thread. "All right," he grunted finally, pushing off the beam and adopting a defensive stance. "Make it quick." With that, Camilla pulled him deeper into the throng, ready to weave through the chaos of the marketplace. A reluctant alliance formed in the shadows of desperation. Harry was not one for complexities. He preferred clarity, a straightforward target, and the thrill of the hunt. As a former military operative who had seen the dark sides of both alien and human nature, he had one rule: protect yourself first. Yet the moment Camilla entrapped him with those violet eyes, he felt a stirring he hadn't expected. The marketplace was a cacophony of sound, the clatter of alien tongues, the rustle of exotic fabrics, and the occasional explosion of laughter. It was an excellent place for Camilla to hide, but it also played against them. The crowd surged like a living entity, chaotic and unpredictable, but with every step they shared, Harry could feel the thrumming tension between them. "Do you even have a plan?" he asked, voice low and laced with skepticism as they navigated through the throng. "You can't just run forever." Camilla glanced at him, her expression a blend of determination and vulnerability. "I'll never stop fighting against them." She was resolute, her ambition evident in every word. Yet Harry noticed the brief tremor in her hands, a sign of the pressure weighing upon her. "Fighting is one thing, surviving is another," he countered. "You need to lay low. We need to ditch these guys first." In that fleeting moment, she turned to him, the desperation in her eyes softening into something more profound, a shared understanding. "I need you, Harry. If you help me, I can expose everything they've done. They can't keep operating in the shadows." He studied her, caught in the juxtaposition of her fierce spirit and the vulnerability that lay beneath her bravado. There was something about her, a flicker of resilience that reminded him of a mission long past, fighting oppression, standing up for the powerless. After a few more stressful minutes of darting through alleys and market stalls, his contempt for her plight began to dissipate. She might be trouble, but trouble had its own allure, and curiosity gnawed at him. "All right, we'll figure it out together," he relented, the words rolling off his tongue with more commitment than he anticipated. "But don't expect me to play the knight in shining armor." "Fair enough," she replied with a slight smile, the tension easing as they ducked into the shadows of a warehouse. "Just don't underestimate me. I'm not just the damsel in distress." Harry arched an eyebrow, impressed by her spirit. "I never do." As they settled in the dimly lit space, Camilla took a moment, breathing heavily. The adrenaline began to fade, revealing her fatigue and the fear she had been suffocating. "We should find a safe place to regroup," she suggested, her voice finally steadying. They planned their next steps, moving away from prying eyes. Camilla spoke of the data chip, how it held damning evidence against council leaders who manipulated policies for their gain, bleeding the galaxy dry. She developed a plan to expose them but needed allies and resources. Harry listened intently, the gears of strategy beginning to turn. Hours passed in the warehouse, their planning interrupted by bursts of laughter and conversation from outside. But doubt still lingered in Harry's mind. "What's to stop your friends from betraying us?" he challenged, wanting to hear her thoughts. "I only have a few true allies," she replied, her voice firm. "Those I trust have helped me before." "What do you know about me?" He crossed his arms, leaning against a stack of crates, the intensity rising as he probed deeper. "I could be leading you into a trap." "We're in the same situation, aren't we?" Her gaze locked onto his, unfazed, and that vulnerability returned, drawing him in deeper. "You could easily betray me for the bounty. But you didn't?" "Maybe I'm just curious," he huffed. "You're a bold one. I admire that." "Then stay by my side, and maybe we can be each other's strength," she offered, an intriguing proposition tinged with an optimistic light. They shared a moment, the air between them crackling with unsaid words. The stakes were high, and yet Harry couldn't shake the thrill of danger that she brought, the rush that coursed through him like fire. As night fell outside, enveloping the market in obscurity, Harry took a chance. "So, what's next?" Camilla grinned, a beautiful and fierce expression filled with fierce determination. "We show them who they're messing with." With a new ingenuity in their hearts, they slipped out of the warehouse, Camilla leading the way. The air was charged, each step a dance with destiny as they ventured back into the uncertain world together, a reluctant hero pairing ready to confront the shadows. The streets of Lentra pulsed with life as Camilla and Harry emerged from the shadows of the warehouse. The neon signs flickered overhead, casting vibrant hues across faces in the crowd, who moved beneath the cobalt sky. However, the excitement of the market was tinged with danger. Their previous escape had heightened the senses of Camilla and Harry, making every passerby feel like a potential threat. "Where to now?" Harry asked, keeping a watchful eye on their surroundings. "Follow me," Camilla replied, her stride quickening as they navigated through the throngs of shoppers and traders. I know a safe house nearby. We can regroup and make our next move. There's no shortage of safe houses in this city. Trust is a rare commodity, Harry cautioned, his voice firm but curious. He couldn't help but want to know more about this enigmatic alien woman who had already wormed her way into his life. I understand your hesitation, she replied, glancing back at him with a mixture of empathy and resolve. But trust me, this place is reliable. Just a few blocks away, I promise. Harry could sense the sincerity in her voice as he followed her into narrower alleyways. Their connection was undeniable, igniting the kind of unpredictable excitement that he hadn't felt in years. The intrigue simmered between them, he found himself wanting to learn more about the spirit behind those captivating violet eyes. As they reached a nondescript building, worn and unassuming, yet charming, Camilla led him inside. The door creaked open, revealing a modest living space filled with assorted alien decor and a faint aroma of herbal tea. It was cozy yet carried an edgy vibe that hinted at its true purpose. Inside, an elderly woman greeted them with a knowing smile. Camilla. It's been a while, she said, her voice soft yet strong, contrasting against the cacophony of the outside world. I had to lay low, Doro, Camilla replied, moving to embrace the older woman. But I need your help now. Hiding from the council again, I see, Doro chuckled, her wise eyes sparkling with understanding. As Doro turned to Harry, she studied him with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. And who is this? Harry, he introduced himself, trying to appear at ease. Just a friend willing to help Camilla out of a tight spot. Doro's gaze softened, sensing the bond between them. Well, every ally matters. Come on in, I'll brew some tea. You two must be exhausted. As they settled into the worn-out chairs of Doro's living space, Harry felt a sense of safety blanketing them. It was a peculiar feeling for a man accustomed to solitude and danger throughout his life. Camilla, too, seemed to relax, the tension slowly dissipating from her shoulders. Let's talk strategy, she said, her fierce nature returning. I have a few contacts who could help me with the data chip. We need to get it into the right hands. Harry nodded, intrigued. Who do you trust to handle it? Well, there's Alara, a journalist known for her unwavering pursuit of the truth. She has connections among the press across the galaxy. If anyone can make the documents public, it's her, Camilla explained, her voice laced with hope. Just then, Doro returned with 2 steaming cups of tea, setting one before each of them. Not to interrupt your plotting, but tell me, dear, how did you find yourself in need of a human's help? Harry felt a flush of modesty at Doro's question but found himself invested in Camilla's response. Harry didn't have to help me, but he chose to. There's something about him, he's not just seeking the bounty, he genuinely wants to do right by this galaxy. She looked at Harry, and the warmth in her gaze sent a thrill through him, a feeling he couldn't easily dismiss. Doro smiled at Harry approvingly, the elder woman recognizing the bond that had formed. Be cautious, Camilla. Allies are precious, but they can also become liabilities. Trust me, I'm aware, Camilla replied, her voice steady, yet a shadow passed through her eyes. But I need him, he's proven he can handle himself. With a lingering silence resting in the air, Harry took a sip of the tea, its warmth enveloping his senses. So, when do we contact Alara? He asked, eager to kickstart their mission. Tonight, Camilla declared, her eyes gleaming with ambition. She will be at the underground press meeting. We'll go together, but we need to stick low. If they catch wind of my presence, it's game over. I can make my way in unnoticed, Harry asserted, his mind already racing with ideas. His military training had always been about crafting strategies out of thin air. I can't guarantee your safety in that crowd, she replied, concern tinging her voice. You have no idea what they're capable of. But you're not just a pretty face, right? He challenged, an edge of playful defiance in his tone. You can fight, and I'll help you. I've got your back. I appreciate that, Camilla admitted, a faint smile breaking her serious demeanor. We'll need it. As the evening pressed on, they meticulously plotted their movements, their fates intertwined. The gravity of their mission solidified a bond neither expected. The touch of intimacy and trust hung in the air, escalating the whirlwind of emotions brewing. With plans in place, they shared a knowing glance, two warriors getting ready to face the uncertain world ahead. Above them, the stars twinkled, watching their every move as if the galaxy itself held its breath, waiting to see what would unfold. As night fell in Lentra, they slipped out of Doro's cozy haven, setting course for the underground press meeting. The electric anticipation hummed in their veins, binding them together with a sense of purpose and ferocity that ignited a spark within their souls. The streets of Lentra were alive, veiled in the vibrant glow of neon signs that painted a mesmerizing tapestry against the deep blue of the night sky. Camilla and Harry moved with purpose, cutting through the throngs of revelers and traders, blending seamlessly into the scene of eclectic hustle and bustle. For a brief moment, the tension of their earlier flight faded, replaced by the electric hum of excitement that coiled in the air. As they neared their destination, Camilla's heartbeat quickened, every step echoing the urgency of their mission. "Are you sure you trust this, Alara?" Harry asked, keeping his voice low to avoid attracting unwanted attention. They weaved between vendors and street performers, the atmosphere thick with the scent of spiced foods and the sounds of laughter. "She's reliable, Harry," Camilla assured him, her resolve evident. "She's been reporting on the Council's activities for years and has risked a lot to get the truth out. If anyone can help us rally support, it's her." "All right, let's hope I don't have to do any more fleeing tonight," he replied, smirking at her. His attempt at lightheartedness was met with a grateful smile, lighting the darkness that loomed at the edges of their journey. As they ventured deeper into the underbelly of Lentra, the atmosphere shifted. The colorful lights dimmed, replaced by flickering ones that cast eerie shadows across graffiti-laden walls. This part of the city had seen its share of desperation and suffering, and it resonated with the whispers of those who came before. They arrived at an inconspicuous door nestled between two larger buildings, adorned with faded flyers and graffitied slogans demanding justice. Camilla hesitated, taking a moment to steel her nerves before pushing it open. Inside, dim lights revealed a gathering of faces, a mix of journalists, activists, and weary citizens, all drawn together by the pounding rhythm of hope and rebellion against oppression. As murmurs filled the air, Camilla took a deep breath, scanning the room for the woman she sought. "There she is," she whispered, spotting Alara at the far end of the room. The journalist was striking, with short silver hair and a fierce gaze that burned with the embers of rebellion. "You stay close," Harry said, positioning himself protectively beside her as they made their way through the crowd. When they reached Alara, she looked up, her expression shifting from curiosity to interest as she eyed the pair. "Camilla. It's been a while," she said, stepping forward for a brief embrace. "What brings you back to this den of secrets?" "I need your help," Camilla replied, urgency bleeding through her words. "I've got intel on the Council, evidence that could expose their corrupt dealings." Alara's eyes brightened with interest and concern. "You're putting yourself at risk coming here. The Council's got eyes everywhere." "This isn't just a risk, it's an opportunity," Camilla insisted, her voice steady. "We need to get the word out before they can impact more lives. I can't do this without you." "All right, share what you have," Alara prompted, gesturing toward a quieter corner. The tension in the room faded slightly as the trio drifted away from prying ears. Camilla produced the data chip, holding it delicately as if it were the spark of change they needed. "This contains everything, the fraud, the cover-ups, the bloodshed they caused to maintain power. We can't let them continue." Alara took the chip, examining it with intense scrutiny. "This could shift the tide if presented correctly. We'll need a solid plan. This evidence will be hunted down." "That's why we need more than just your network," Harry interjected, his protective instincts kicking in. "We need bodyguards, volunteers, and someone to create a distraction." Alara nodded knowingly. "You're right. I'll reach out to my contacts, we can set up a meeting to rally support." As they discussed next steps, Harry felt the weight of the stakes settle into place. With every plan they crafted, he recognized the impending danger they faced. Camilla was more than just a beautiful alien to him. She embodied hope, resilience, and the desire for justice, qualities that stirred something deep within. As the discussions continued, the murmurs around them crescendoed. Voices pitched with passion as activists exchanged ideas and debated strategies. Harry listened intently, assessing their surroundings. The underground movement pulsed around him, a beating heart driven by desperation and determination. It was intoxicating. Suddenly, a crash resonated through the room, drawing their attention. A group of council enforcers burst in, their armor gleaming maliciously under the harsh lights, faces obscured by helmets. "Everyone, freeze!" One of them barked, his voice filled with authority and menace. Panic erupted as bodies shifted and murmurs turned to shouts. Camilla moved instinctively, grabbing Harry's arm. "We have to get out." "Stay close," he ordered, adrenaline surging as he shoved through startled patrons, creating a path to the back exit. Elara scrambled alongside them, her fierce resolve bearing a weight of urgency. "You can't let them get that data chip," she shouted over the chaos. As they neared the exit, chaos erupted behind them. Harry heard the thud of boots and the crackle of a stun gun as enforcers pushed their way through the crowd. They had to move, and fast. Heart racing, Harry grabbed Camilla and Elara, pushing them through a narrow hallway that led to a back alley. The air outside was brisk, but the rising tension left little room to breathe. "Which way?" Harry gasped, urgency tightening his chest as he glanced over his shoulder, bracing for the storm that was sure to come. "Follow me," Camilla shouted, pulling him along as they dashed down the alley, adrenaline fueling their escape. Elara kept pace, equally fierce and intent on survival. As they skidded around a corner, Harry's mind raced with calculations, their next steps, their exit strategy. They needed to vanish, to assure that data made it safely into the hands that could wield it as a weapon against those corrupt and rigid in power. "We can't stop until we find somewhere safe," Elara urged, determination gleaming in her eye. "No stopping," Harry agreed, grit settling into his resolve. They broke into a sprint, knowing that their freedom depended on their ability to outrun the darkness chasing them. With every step, the stakes rose, and their allegiance deepened. The trio was bound together, woven by shared risks and the unyielding desire to upend a galaxy ruled by fear. The surge of escape sent them flying into an unknown future, where danger lurked behind every corner, yet hope flared brightly in their hearts. The sound of pounding footsteps echoed behind them, but Camilla, Harry, and Elara ran faster. The alleyways of Lentra twisted and turned like a labyrinth. As frustration mounted, Harry cursed under his breath. "Which way now?" he yelled, wind rushing past as they rounded another corner, breathless and urgent. Camilla glanced over her shoulder, fear glinting in her violet eyes. "There. The exit at the far street. We'll cut through the market, it'll be crowded, and we can lose them in the chaos." Harry hesitated for a split second, assessing the plan, but the distant sounds of the enforcers pushing through the crowd loomed nearer. "Lead the way," he shouted, entrusting her instincts. They burst onto the street, the market ablaze with activity, lights twinkling like stars above them. Vendors called out, and the scent of sizzling food filled the air, creating a stark contrast to the urgency of their flight. "Stay close," Camilla commanded, her voice barely audible over the din as they navigated through the throng of shoppers. Harry kept an arm protectively around her, glancing back occasionally to ensure Elara followed. The crowd swelled, providing a momentary barrier between them and their pursuers. But the moment couldn't last. He could see the enforcers' armored figures pushing into the market, the sharp glint of their weapons reflecting ominously in the lights. "Through that stall," Elara shouted, pointing to a nearby booth laden with colorful fabrics. They darted through the stall, pushing aside curtains and crates as they made their way behind the scenes. The vibrant fabric rippled like waves as they squeezed through, moments away from evading capture, but the thought of safety was premature. "All right, we need to find somewhere to hide," Camilla panted, her eyes darting around for an exit. "Someplace quiet." "Over there." Harry pointed to a nearby building with a dimly lit entrance, The door cracked open just enough to invite them in. "Let's move." As they dove inside, Harry and Camilla slammed the door shut, the noise swallowed by the quiet that enveloped them. They caught their breath, the pounding of their hearts matching the adrenaline coursing through their veins. "Where are we?" Elara whispered, peering around the faint room. "It looks like some kind of storage area," Harry replied, scanning the shadows filled with crates. "We should check for windows." Camilla pushed deeper into the shadows, gesturing for them to follow. "We have to ensure they don't find us." As they fumbled through the crates, Harry couldn't shake the anxiety that lingered at the back of his mind. Each creak of the building and distant voice from the streets outside intensified his unease. "Do you think they'll find us here?" Elara asked, glancing at Harry. "I don't know," he replied, adjusting his stance. "But we need to be ready. If they come in here, we fight our way out." Camilla moved closer, her resolve steeling. "We can't let them stop us. We have to make sure this evidence gets out," she stated firmly. "If they catch us, they'll destroy everything I've worked for. Then we need to get to a secure location, somewhere they won't expect us to go," Harry suggested, scanning the room for any signs of an escape. "I know a few safe spots around here." Suddenly, muffled voices approached, the enforcers creeping closer, growing louder. Panic tightened around them like a noose. Camilla's eyes widened, and she instinctively grabbed Harry's arm. "The door," she whispered, urgently pointing. They wouldn't have much time left. "Everyone, quiet." Harry breathed, hushing them instantly. They crouched low behind the crates, hearts pounding in unison. "Check the back," a gruff voice commanded outside, sending a chill down Harry's spine. She couldn't have gone far. Camilla gripped Harry's arm tighter, fear emanating from her. In that moment, all thoughts of bravado had vanished, every unspoken bond was now punctuated by the urgency of survival. "I'll create a distraction," Harry whispered, making eye contact with both women. "When I do, you need to run. Head toward the market again, and look for one of those alleyways." "No." Camilla insisted, shaking her head, fear gripping her features. "You can't." "I can't let you get captured." He insisted, his gaze fixed on hers. "I can handle myself. Just trust me." As the voices grew nearer, he breathed deeply to steady himself, ready to act. Elara caught Harry's gaze. "You can't do this alone. We stand as a team." "We'll meet at the rendezvous point," he promised, determination igniting a fire in his gut. He knew these streets better than anyone. "I can't leave you," Camilla cried, panic welling as goosebumps rose on her skin. "Harry is right," Elara urged, her tone firm yet soft. "If you're caught, we're all lost. We need you both alive." With one last glance exchanged, Harry drew a deep breath and crouched lower, adrenaline coursing through him. "Just go." And with that, he slipped out from behind the crates, shifting to the dank hallway where shadows played tricks on him. It was now or never. "Hey!" he yelled, directing all attention towards himself. "Come get me." The enforcers turned abruptly, shouts of surprise echoing in the corridor. They barreled toward him, weapons raised, and for a fleeting moment, Harry felt a rush of confidence surge within. He wasn't merely a bounty hunter, he was a protector now, a guardian. He spun on his heel just as they closed in, darting through the building's back exit. The cold night air hit him hard, sending a jolt of clarity through his veins. He could hear the thunderous footsteps behind him as he leapt over trash bins, dodging toward the market's heart. As he navigated through back alleys, his instincts kicked in. He knew what it was to evade pursuers, to play the hunter rather than hunted. But as he rounded a corner, he skidded to a stop, realizing he had miscalculated. The enforcers were everywhere, blocking every exit. "Got you now," one of them sneered, his weapon raised, and Harry felt a weight settle upon him like chains. He had been foolish to think he could outrun fate forever. But he was no average bounty hunter, he was a fighter. Drawing from years of training, he braced himself for what would come next, adrenaline surging as he spotted a narrow divide in the crowd. With a surge of daring energy, he lunged toward the opening, adrenaline blazing as he slipped past guards, determined to carve a path. "Get him!" A shout erupted behind him as he sprinted through the market's chaos, heart racing. That was all the encouragement he needed. With eyes focused ahead and fear surging in his veins, Harry dashed back toward Camilla and Alara, intent on forming an unbreakable bond. He would return to them, no matter the cost. The market unfolded around Harry like a web of chaos as he sprinted through the narrowing alleys. The shouts of the enforcers echoed behind him, and every instinct screamed at him to push harder. He was their target, an unwitting pawn whose actions had set this chain of events into motion. Rounding a corner, he spotted a familiar path leading toward the dingy back alleys he had traversed many times before. He nearly collided with a merchant's stall but deftly dodged, a mix of fear and adrenaline propelling him forward. "Get him!" an enforcer roared, their voices growing louder with each passing second. As Harry neared the adjacent alley, his thoughts turned to Camilla and Alara. He needed to ensure their safety. Those women had become more than just allies, they represented hope, a cause worth fighting for. His heart raced as he considered his options, scanning the area for any chance to hide or escape. It became clear that he wouldn't just run, he had to fight. He was determined to shield them from the enforcer's eyes. Suddenly, he spotted a small, dark entrance that led into another narrow passageway, cloaked in shadows. With no time to hesitate, he darted inside, the darkness swallowing him whole. As he pressed on, he heard the enforcer's footsteps loud and relentless behind him. They were closing in fast. "Split up!" he heard one command. He couldn't have gone far. Harry's chest tightened, knowing that if they found Camilla and Alara, it could mean disaster. He needed to get back to them. Suddenly, he halted. Plan B. It struck him, if the enforcers were distracted long enough, it might give them the opening they needed to slip away. Gathering resolve, he made his way further into the darkness, finding an old crate piled high with debris that he could use to create a blockade. As he positioned it behind him, the distant sounds of footsteps and conversing voices heightened his urgency. The enforcers were here. Turning around, he prepared for the confrontation, crouching low and ready to spring. They would soon come into view, and he had to create an opening for his companions. When they appeared, weapons raised and faces grim, Harry smirked, adrenaline surging within. "You'll have to do better than that," he called, taunting them to draw their focus. The enforcers turned toward him, their expressions shifting from confusion to fury as they glared at him. "There he is!" one shouted. "Grab him!" In a swift blur of movement, Harry lunged forward, using the element of surprise to his advantage. He tackled the nearest enforcer to the ground, the clash echoing through the alley. The others rushed him, but he didn't falter. He leveraged his military training, dodging blows and fighting back with calculated precision. Each punch was a testament to his determination to protect Camilla and Alara, to harbor the hope they all yearned for. Yet even with his skills, they overwhelmed him. The numbers were too great, and he felt the weight of their strikes bearing down upon him. Then, through the melee, he spotted a flash of indigo, Camilla. She had found him. "Harry!" she cried out. But before he could respond, an enforcer shoved him to the ground. Camilla stepped forward in an attempt to help, but Harry shouted, "No! Get back! Run!" She hesitated, clearly torn, but Harry forced himself to meet her gaze. "You have to go. I'll hold them off." Camilla's expression burned with resolve and fear, her features casting shadows in the dim light. "I won't leave you." "Do it," he pleaded. At that moment, the enforcers closed in, and Harry knew he had to act quickly. As the last of his strength surged through him, he kicked the enforcer nearest to him back and pushed himself to his feet, lunging toward Camilla and Alara. "Now!" he shouted. "Run!" With renewed determination, Camilla grabbed Alara's arm, pulling her away from the chaos. "We can't let them catch us." As they sprinted back toward the market, Harry turned to face the enforcers once more. He would take whatever risks necessary to cover their escape. If you want her, you'll have to go through me. He threw himself into the fray again, a whirlwind of fists and anger. As panic coursed through him, he thought of the future. Of making a difference in the galaxy. Of fighting for those who couldn't fight for themselves. He would not let this end here. Just as he seemed to be gaining an upper hand, a sharp pain pierced through his side from behind, a stun baton. Time slowed as he felt the electricity course through him, robbing him of focus and strength. He fell to his knees, gasping. Now we take her down. One enforcer growled, a cruel smile spreading across his face as he turned toward the fleeing women. In that moment of weakness, Harry's heart sunk, everything hinged on Camilla's courage, on her desire to fight back. But just as defeat threatened to hold him in its grasp, Harry summoned the last remnants of strength. Camilla! He called hoarsely. Do not look back. You have to keep going. With that command, he faced the enforcers, ready for what was to come, fueled by newfound resolve. And then, an explosion. Blinding light erupted from the alley just beyond them, shaking the air and causing chaos as smoke filled the space. It was Alara's distraction, a calculated gamble to shift attention away from Camilla and Harry. Go! Camilla shouted again, warmth surging in her tone as she pulled Alara along, her eyes flicking back to see Harry still standing, still fighting. As the blur of chaos around them became an inferno, Alara and Camilla turned away, hearts racing as they burst onto the bustling market square. Where should we go? Alara gasped, her voice barely audible above the commotion. Anywhere but here. Camilla replied, urgency fueling her legs. They darted through the pearlescent stalls, fear and adrenaline entwined, desperate to evade capture and stand united against the darkness. As the chaos in the alley raged, Harry fought through blinding flashes of pain and smoke. He could barely see, but he could hear, the shouts of enforcers, their footsteps scrambling as they regrouped, and then silence. He wanted to believe that Camilla had escaped, that he had protected her, but uncertainty coiled around his heart like a vice. Then finally, they emerged, into the teeming market, fueled by the pulsating beat of energy, and yet, it was all fading. Just as darkness began to steal over him, a small group of figures came into view, worn faces filled with determination and hope. They were allies of Alara's, here to help defend their movement, and as they swarmed forward, a fierce cry echoed in the air. Fight! For our future! Camilla yelled, raising her voice among the throng, as they rallied together to push back against the encroaching tides of council power. As strength surged through the air, Harry found solace in their connection, their fight not over yet. The chaos in the market began to settle, the furious clash between the enforcers and the burgeoning resistance echoing like a heartbeat of rebellion. Camilla felt adrenaline coursing through her as she rallied her allies, drawing on the strength of their shared mission. Push forward! She shouted, her voice cutting through the cacophony. We cannot let them take our freedom. As the resistance surged ahead, she kept an eye on the chaos unfolding behind her. Harry was still in the fray, battling against the enforcers to protect their escape. Each blow he exchanged pressed against her heart, knowing he fought tirelessly for her and Alara. Camilla! Alara urged, pulling at her arm. We need to get this intel out now. Yes, let's go. She nodded, her resolve warming in solidarity. They dashed down the alley, following a path toward safety. Behind them, the sounds of struggle melded into a blur of desperation, but the urgency to act propelled them forward. As they reached the rendezvous point, a secure location lined with rebels, they found safety among their comrades. Camilla shared the data chip containing crucial evidence against the council, and the news sent ripples of excitement through the crowd. We'll expose their corruption and raise the cry for justice, she declared, feeling a surge of hope in her chest. Meanwhile, back among the fray, Harry continued to fight with relentless determination. As the pressure mounted, allies from the underground joined him, and together, they pushed against the remaining enforcers. Together, he rallied them, the sense of collective strength igniting a fierce spirit. Faces alight with courage rallied behind him, and they drove their enemies back, reclaiming the streets one step at a time. With each victory, the Council's grip on power weakened, an uprising born from the ashes of despair. Days turned into weeks, and a seismic shift began to take place across Lentra.